So if you've done that work and you're seeing somebody and you're like, yeah, this is really going somewhere, I would really love for them to meet my children now, then the thing that I would really encourage you to do is to be really, really respectful of the role of the co-parent in the life of your children, or the fact that they are your children's other parent and their relationship with your children is incredibly important. And in honor of that relationship, before you tell the children that you're dating, before you tell the children that you want them to meet the partner, tell your co-parent. So when you tell your co-parent first, they have their space to process their emotions around it. If they are going to be really upset, distressed, angry, whatever, they get to do that when the kids aren't there. But if it's the kids that tell them, then that reaction happens with kids, and that will not set your new relationship up for good success with your children.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, for joining me on the show today. I've been very excited to chat with you.
I've been really looking forward to talking with you as well. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yes. So we're going to talk about all things co-parenting today and what dating from a co-parenting lens might look like and yeah, as well as new relationships and things like that. And I know right now in my own sphere, I have friends that are, currently in the process of separation. I have friends that are in the process where both parents are dating. So this is a super interesting subject. And I actually asked some of my friends what kind of questions they have for you. So yeah, so I'll just start with actually asking you in your practice, what's the most common challenge that you see that couples face that are co-parents?
The most challenging things they face as co-parents, I think, is often around knowing what the new boundaries are,
Mm.
or what is different in parenting together compared to when you're in a relationship together, in terms of uh, how much say you get over what the other person is doing, particularly with the children, how much influence you still have there, and the immense pain and grief that comes with not having the children in your home 7 nights of the week, every week, and learning how to share the children so that they can have that connected relationship with both parents. But my goodness me, that's rarely a parent's dream, to not have their children with them all of the time. So to try and do those two things in a history of pain and grief and often anger and other complex emotions related to the relationship breakdown, it's really hard. You know, even just as we talk through just that part out loud, I'm just thinking, like, it is such a difficult part of their lives to step through. It is absolutely when you need your village wrapped around you, because jeepers, it's a lot.
Yeah, just you talking about it, it's just like I'm getting like shivers all over, and not the good kind, just like the oh my gosh, like it sounds so hard, and like the that massive change that's taking place for all parties involved, but I mean especially the child.
That's right. That's right. I'm thinking also for the financial stress and strain that happens at that time as well, because you're also having to figure out how how do the finances work now between the two of us, and then how do we manage two homes with that instead of one. And there's often changes in work schedules and just so much upheaval. It is really normal for parenting to go a little haywire, a little offline for the first 2 years after
Mm.
separation. And I think that makes so much sense when you think about just how much it is that parents are trying to do in that space. And I really want for your, I love that idea that your friends can actually prime you with the most important questions. What a wonderful thing about having a friend do a podcast. That for any of them listening, to really give themselves that grace to know that they're not going to be at their parenting best for those 2 years, because they're going through something incredibly difficult. They're going through their darkest days. So whilst I want them to have a huge amount of grace and space for the mistakes their co-parent might make, I want them to have a truckload of grace and space for themselves for what might be present for them in that space.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful. So, I was gonna go right into like the dating and new relationships, but I don't want to go there just yet. I feel like there's some really interesting conversation to be had around the actual separation of a couple and this transition. So I just wonder what's your opinion and what have you found when and how should parents talk to their child about their separation, like that they're separated, that they're separating. Um,
Yeah, so I do have some really key recommendations for that. It's children from the day they're born, it is really important for their survival to be able to read their parents really well, and especially their mum. So all of the tiny micro expressions that go across our faces when we're having emotional reactions, our children can read us better than anyone, even if we are trying to mask. And if we are trying to mask our emotions, then weird stuff shows up anyway. If we try and mask sadness or disappointment, will often come up with contempt and disgust. Those aren't great messages to be sending out to our kids either. The part of that matters is that when things are not okay between the parents, the kids already know. They are already tracking it. They are picking up on the energy. They are picking up on the tension, even if you are doing your very, very best. And I hope you are, because exposing kids to toxic conflict is really, really bad for them. But no matter how good a job you're doing, they were picking things up. And in the absence of an explanation about what is happening, they have to make up a story. I mean, we make up stories about what is happening when there is tension, when there is stress, when there is anger present. From an evolutionary perspective, it makes it important to look at your own survival. So children start looking at, what am I doing? Am I triggering this? What is happening here that is bringing out these behaviors from mum and dad that is about me? So it's important to tell kids as I was going to say as soon as you know what's happening, and I want to put some caveats in around that. You want to be able to give your kids some information. So, you're not wrong about this. Things between us have changed, and we're trying to figure out where that's going. Might be something that you might say earlier in the piece. Once you know that you are separating, then it's important to get a couple of things in place first to let the kids know that this is the next step forward, that you're going to transition to a two-home family. So I often, excuse me, in fact, always recommend people do go and have an initial chat with a collaboratively trained lawyer. And for anyone who's just thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't want to escalate things, I don't want to go see a lawyer, I'd say, yeah, you don't want to go and see most lawyers, but a collaboratively trained lawyer is somebody who is already trained and focused on helping you and your co-parents separate well together, so that you do that as a team. But where that first piece of advice can help is in knowing what legal implications are of the decisions that you might be making in terms of whether you're nesting, whether somebody's moving out of the home, just in that first period before you actually know what that shared care arrangement is going to look like.
mm-hmm.
And so that way, when the two of you are stepping through your decisions about how to separate for that first part, you can feel confident and relaxed about the legal standing of it, which then de-escalates the tension in it. So when you're having that conversation, I think it should be something that your co-parent knows that you're going to go and do, that you're both talking about doing this together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part then is to know what you think the first kind of 8 weeks are going to look like. That's about as far as you need to know before you tell the kids.
Okay.
And then to tell the children together, wherever possible, and with a very short script. But it's just about our romantic relationship has ended. We're going to be transitioning into a two-home family. We love you immensely, and our priorities on how to be really, really good parents together to you as we figure out how to have our family across two homes now. That conversation is best to happen on a weekend during term time, so that kids can go back to school and have time away from the separation happening to have all of their emotional reactions. And it's important that any key adults in the children's lives know about the separation from the parents, so that the kids can talk to any trusted adult that they like about it, so they can go and get resourcing wherever they feel they need, but they are never going to be the deliverers of the news. So the people will already know and already be primed to step in and help them through that.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah. And is there a difference? So you're talking about kind of school children, and what about little children that are maybe I don't know, under like not in school yet. Maybe they can already under like how does well even with a baby, like how does is there anything that takes place there?
Yeah, so with small children, preschool age, they don't understand at all the impact, or the fact that everybody lives in the same home in some families and live in different homes in other families, or that when you move into two homes, that's going to be a long-term thing. Like they they have a very limited understanding of the bigger picture. They can still pick up on all of that emotion. That's really important. They can still read all of that emotional stuff. But the narrative then is just very, very simple. Again, we love you to pieces, and we're moving into being a two-home family, and we're going to answer your questions as we go through this. Just let us know how you're traveling. For children under the age of 4, it is the boss level of co-parenting after separation, because once children are kind of 5 and 6 and older, they can handle the idea that mum or dad loves me even if I don't see them for a week. They can hold on to their attachment and bond in that relationship for longer periods of time. But from up until around the age of 4, that's much, much harder. They can't do that. So they need that frequent contact with both caregivers, which means a lot of handovers. It means a lot of conversations and negotiations, and the younger they are, the more that is happening. So if at the point of separation we've got parents who are thinking like, we would really like a 50-50 shared care arrangement, that is often, I mean, depending on the developmental needs of your kids and how that fits into the employment situation of both parents, etc., it's often really, really possible and can work very, very well once the children are school age. But to get there, you do need to have a primary carer with lots of frequent contact with the other carer to maintain their healthy attachment with both parents.
Okay.
It's a more complicated time.
Yeah, wow. And obviously ideally physical contact. Like if you don't have that option, like this might sound silly, but like video calls, is that helpful? Like telling the child that you love them, like what?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think this is where so much can be different from family to family, right? Because whilst there is far more in common between people than there is difference. However, families are unique. You might have siblings at different ages, or somebody who is FIFO or what have you. So for those types of questions around, for our kids, are video calls okay? Some kids are going to be far better not on a video call because it's way too much visual information, but they're going to be great to jump on a phone call. Others really, really just need somebody to be physically present. That's when it can be so helpful to meet with a co-parenting coach, meet with somebody who is a expert in child development, to talk through your specific situation and how to step that through together.
Is there anything that comes to mind that maybe differs a bit when the parents are cohabiting still while being separated? Is that due to maybe financial reasons, or like, is there anything to, I guess, pay attention to there?
Yes, so that's happening at an increasing rate at the moment. I'm not sure where things are at in Canada, but in Australia, we are having a housing crisis. So it is incredibly difficult to find another, like to split one into two is incredibly challenging and expensive right now. So we're seeing an increasing amount of that. It's important to not delay telling the children that the romantic relationship is finished and that you're separated, because as soon as they're seeing parents sleep in separate rooms or not being able to be in the same spaces so easily together, they need an explanation for what is happening. They need to know that this is not what a healthy romantic attachment looks like, because this is what they're learning from you. They're learning, what does it look like to be in love? What does it look like to be romantically attached? So if that's not what you've got, you need to let them know. We are still friends together, or we make better co-parents when we are not in a relationship with each other. But they need to know that this is different from when parents are in love with each other and raising children.
So such a big transition, so many challenges, for sure. So then when the separation has, I guess, completed, maybe they're living apart, the children have been informed. At what point, like, is there a time frame? Like, at what point can you introduce, I guess, a new partner to the children? And like, is there a right time? Is there a poor time? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I have so many thoughts on all of that, because um, I, I knew, a longer term, a new step parent in the life of a child can be the biggest asset. There's no limit to how many people can love a child and be a positive adult influence in the life of the child. And new partners can completely destabilize a well-functioning co-parenting relationship. It's a very unsettling time. Um, I think that the part where the dating someone new should happen after the separation is really important. I would really love for people to realize that their relationship is finished before they go and explore other options.
Mm-hmm.
So if that isn't the story of anyone listening to this, if the relationship started out of an affair, that's kind of an extra layer of complexity around the feelings that are going to be involved for your co-parent when you're wanting to introduce that person into the children's lives. So I feel like we just kind of want to put a marker in that takes an incredible amount of skill, care, compassion, and
Yeah.
so generally, as a general rule, men are ready to date faster than women.
Mm-hmm.
So I often say to women when they go through those early stages of separation is get ready for that. It will happen before you expect it. It'll be happen likely before your heart is ready for it, because that just seems to be the way that that a lot of men, not all men, move. They do better in relationships. They enjoy the company and the partnership that comes along with that, and so they do return to the dating world generally, statistically, sooner. Women are often quite happy to be on their own for a while, and I did know these stats at one point and I've forgotten them, but there's a large number of separated divorced women who choose to never remarry, to never cohabit again. They may in time date and really enjoy dating, but increasingly we see them choosing to have long-term relationships where their partner still lives in their other home because they enjoy having their own space. So I think that's one of the reasons why it often takes women by surprise if the man is dating, is because they're like, well, I am nowhere near ready for that. So there can be that difference, and that can be very tricky to again navigate the heart around.
Mm.
If you are dating, it's important to make sure that the relationship has really good legs in it, and not on the person that you're choosing to date. It's great if they have nice legs too, but that the relationship has really good legs in it before you look at introducing your new partner to the children. Children are trying to figure out all of their attachments to the adults in their lives, and so if they're going to have mum or dad's new partner come in, we want it to be somebody who is likely to be around for a long time, where the early kinks have been sorted out in the relationship. Now that's going to differ from couple to couple, and it's also going to differ according to the level of reflection that that you have done in being ready to date again, I really encourage, no, that didn't come out well. I would really encourage anyone who has separated to spend some time talking with a health professional around what happened in their relationship, what happened before they got into that relationship, how did they come into a relationship that needed to end. And that might be because for all kinds of reasons, but like if you know that you've had a bad radar and you've got a series of really bad breakups, it's a really good idea to look at what are the patterns that are there for you. How do you communicate? How do you read the communication of somebody else? How do you hold your boundaries? How do you tell if somebody is a really good match for you, so that when you do go out into the dating world, you're going to be finding somebody that is going to be a good long-term fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've done that work and you're seeing somebody and you're like, yeah, this is really going somewhere, I would really love for them to meet my children now, then the thing that I would really encourage you to do is to be really, really respectful of the role of the co-parent in the life of your children, or the fact that they are your children's other parent and their relationship with your children is incredibly important. And in honor of that relationship, before you tell the children that you're dating, before you tell the children that you want them to meet the partner, tell your co-parent. Let them know. And if you're thinking like, I really don't want to do that, or why should I do that, blah, 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 remember this has got nothing to do with the two of you. It's about the children. And the children have to figure out how to make sense of you dating. They have to make sense of what are they supposed to do with this new person. And children have all kinds of complex thoughts and feelings around what happens if I like this new person? Does that mean I'm being disloyal to my parent? Will I hurt my parent if I like this person? Do I need to get rid of them? Are they the evil stepmother or stepfather coming into my life? So when you tell your co-parent first, they have their space to process their emotions around it. If they are going to be really upset, distressed, angry, whatever, they get to do that when the kids aren't there. But if it's the kids that tell them, then that reaction happens with the kids, and that will not set your new relationship up for good success with your children. So tell your co-parent first. That's not so that your co-parent can tell you that you can't date somebody. They've lost that right. They can't tell you not to introduce this person. They don't actually have that right either. You're just giving them a heads up. The next part that I would also suggest is for the co-parent and the new partner to catch up for a coffee or a Zoom or meet in some way, again, before the children. And that can just take so much stress and tension out of this transition. Because the reality is, your co-parent has pretty good taste, right? They chose you at some point. And so the likelihood is this new person that they're dating, if you had met them under other circumstances, you probably would be friends. But when they are the new partner, there's all these narratives that are in that mix. So if, if I'm thinking about my children meeting somebody new, I might have a whole heap of stories about who she would be and what she would be like. And I'm probably likely to feel really threatened and scared about my role in my relationship with my kids. I don't need to be, because nobody replaces a parent in a kid's life. But also the new partner, they've only heard about you through the lens of the person they're dating now, who might not always say the best things about you. So being able to get away from those narratives, being able to sit down face to face, even if it's over a Zoom rather than in person, just allows two people to get to see, who are you actually? What does your voice sound like? What do your facial expressions do? What are your thoughts about these kids on both sides? It just really takes that tension out. And I find that so often there's obviously a huge amount of anxiety leading up to that meeting. And afterwards, parents always tell me that was so helpful. That was so good. Oh my goodness me, I really don't need to worry about this person. They've got this strength and they've said this, they've got this idea, and we connected on that point. It's lovely. It's beautiful. And then when you do introduce this person to the children, they can go and talk to the other parent about it. They can go and say, I met my parents' new partner, and the parent can say, I know, I'm so excited. Aren't they lovely? This is awesome. So they can be supportive of your child's relationship with the new partner, and they can be supportive of their children's right to enjoy their time with them and to bond and connect with them.
Wow. And so what you talked about, like this face-to-face meeting, that would literally be with the one of the co-parents and the new partner. So there wouldn't be three people, it would be the two of them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really recommend just the two of them. Yeah, yeah, get the
hmm
other person out of the mix.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And is there any questions that, like, as you know, you're sitting across from this new partner, is there any questions that a parent should be asking?
Um, Look, I was asked something similar on a podcast a few months ago, where the hosts were people who didn't have children, and that they were the new partners that would come in, and so they'd been on the receiving end of what felt like interrogations, and
Mm.
so I'd be really cautious about having like a kind of like an interview list, if you will. Um, I think about what it is that you're frightened of. And if there are questions that you need to ask around that, ask them. Um, or test those questions out in your mind whilst you're just having a conversation. So you might want to know, do they have children? You probably don't want to ask, are they intending to have children with their new partner? That might be a little too much for for a first meeting. But do they have their own children, and how old are they? You might want to know about the relationship that they have with their co-parent, or how much shared care they have with their kids. Um, I would be curious about what their relationship is like with their co-parent, because that might give you some information about what they have already seen as normal standard for what a co-parenting relationship might look like.
hmm
Or they might have had some awful experiences there and are really keen for their lovely new partner to not have those awful experiences. And so you might discover already that you've got a stabilizing asset in your system.
hmm
I think particularly for women, women are often worried about, as I said, about somebody stepping in and kind of taking over that mothering role. And
hmm
whilst mums don't ever need to be worried about losing their connection with their kids when a new partner comes in, sometimes new partners, particularly women without children, can um, it can be so enthusiastic with the kids, can be so enthusiastic about this new role that they're playing, that they don't yet know what the boundary is around being a step parent rather than being a mum figure.
hmm
I don't think you can have that conversation again in that first meeting, but you might be looking for whether or not they've got a sense of that. Do they know what kind of role they are thinking they might play in the lives of the kids? And that might be something that later on you might have a conversation with your co-parent about, to go, look, um, um, if they're becoming more and more serious and they're going to move in with you, it'd be really lovely if you guys could do a step parent course together, so that you can just get some guidance on managing that role well. And I would recommend that for anybody. Step parenting courses certainly over here are readily available, really affordable, and so helpful, because being a step parent is different from being a parent. It's
mm
the role that you want to have with the kids is more of kind of like an aunt or an uncle. So a really close, loving relationship, but the parent needs to do the parenting and
hmm
not the step parent, and that's really important for maintaining the kids' sense of safety with both parents, and for being able to have a positive relationship with that new partner.
hmm Wow. I never heard of a step parent course, but that sounds like such a vital thing. I mean, I was a teenager when my parents divorced, and I got two new step parents pretty quick after, and the relationship was very different with both, and one was a lot easier than the other, and yeah. I know neither one took a step parent course, but yeah, my stepdad, it was just easier. And maybe it was also women with women, that's a bit more challenging anyway. But my stepfather, I know he did a pretty good job just kind of sitting back, being there for us when we needed him, um, offering, like being generous, things like that, but not real. He never expected anything of us, and I think that was a key, yeah, a key to like our relationship success. And I mean, today I have a great relationship with both of them. Yeah.
And I think that is so often what we see is that stepdads move in fairly easily, often without stress. Where we see stress with stepdads is um, the, when he feels uncertain about his relationship with his partner and her relationship with the children and his place in that, or if uh, when you're co-parenting with somebody who is perhaps still a bit of a tricky relationship at times, or doesn't always interact with you in the best ways, then sometimes you have to really orient your behavior around how do we have this person be less stressful and less problematic in our lives. And that doesn't mean that you acquiesce or give over all your boundaries. In fact, it's really important that you don't do that. But it might mean that you don't respond to all of the crap that they say. It might mean that, when they say, things in an insulting or rude way, that you just respond very matter of fact back to them. And for our stepdads, that is the stuff that they often can really struggle with, is like, why won't you tell him that, why won't you tell him he's being this or that, or we don't hold him to account, or he's being disrespectful, how are you putting up with that? And that can be really difficult when she's torn between her new partner and then what she needs to do to keep this one in a healthy relationship with kids, but not causing stress in their lives. That boundary assertive, but really clear communication at her end is about choosing the new family, is about protecting that. So that's very tricky with stepdads. But the parenting aspect with the kids, they often do that really well. And yes, it is often stepmoms that have a much tougher time. And I think it's so much that is to do with all of the cultural learning that we have, that unfortunately, men weren't given a whole heap of modelling about how to be really involved with kids. That we see dads being far more involved than their own fathers were now. It's a wonderful thing. It's a beautiful transition to watch, but it hasn't been in their cultural learning. Whereas for girls, they're playing dolls and families from when they're tiny, and there's so much about this cultural expectation about stepping in. And so if we've got a dad who was used to that in their first relationship particularly, or enjoyed that in their first relationship, and then somebody else steps in and they're ready to pick up the parenting and they're ready to be this loving, nurturing mum figure, it's very easy to just kind of slip back into the comfort of that without recognizing that that's not right for these children.
Yeah. So what are some things that have to be in place? I know you mentioned boundaries and communication, and can you maybe elaborate on those?
Yeah. So I would recommend that the communication boundaries get in place as soon as possible as you're separating. On our website, I have a free course which is 6 steps for co-parenting success, which is completely around how to get those communication boundaries in place quickly and efficiently, even if your co-parent is not so interested in doing that. So what I love about it is it's free solutions in a free course that you don't need your co-parent's permission to put in place.
Nice.
And they're all easy cheats because there's so much that is hard work about co-parenting in those early days. So anything that we can do to make that cheaper and easier, I think is a real win, because you want to know where do you communicate. And I recommend having just one place for communication, so that there's only one place where you need to go for that information. If you are trying to find what the arrangements are, you don't need to look across SMS, Messenger, emails, or remember if it was a conversation. And it also means that then if there is stress in that dynamic, that if there's only one place that communication is happening, you don't need to have your whole central nervous system be on high alert every time you open your inbox or every phone pings, because you know they're going to only communicate here. And wherever the here is, you can have your notifications turned off for that person there, and you can have set times that you will go and have a look at those messages so that you are receiving that communication from them when you're in your best space, when you're able to be calm, when you can reflect, when you don't have the children around you, unless it's an emergency, in which case that overrides everything. So, so having communication in one place, always using respectful communication from your end, regardless of what you get back, is it's a lovely way to, over time, really take the tension out of communication. And ChatGPT is a wonderful help for that. It can take, emails that used to take 8 hours to write can now take 5 minutes. It's a wonderful thing.
Wow. Using ChatGPT for messaging your ex. I like it.
Look, I have so many ways that I suggest people use ChatGPT. And again, most of them are in that free course, so it doesn't even cost them anything to learn them, because it's a wonderful way to both to help you write your message, but also you can do a whole heap of things to work with the message that you've received with ChatGPT, to take the heat out of it, to take the sting out of it, to figure out which part of it you actually need to respond to. If you've got somebody who sends you very, very long emails, that can be great to just ask ChatGPT, what are the key points I actually need to know out of this email?
Wow. Yeah, that's great.
So then a lot, I was asked this in one of our group coaching calls the other day around how much communication is normal, or how much parents should be having with each other. And in that situation, they were very amicable co-parents, and so the answer for them is likely going to be different from other families. But there is a lot of just figuring out how much information do I want, and how much do I want to give, and what is important. So I'd say you want your children to be able to live lives across both homes without secrets. So I would want for children to be able to go and tell either parent what is happening in their whole life. And then the other part then is looking at, well, how much of that does the child communicate versus how much do I communicate to my co-parent? I would say if there is anything that your co-parent is likely to get upset, angry, distressed by, if they find out from the kids, they need to know that stuff. If there's any moment that you are sharing with your parents or your brother or sister or your friends as a moment of delight and joy in your children, share those parts. So if you're sending a text message to someone about your kids, it's probably a good thing to send a version of that to your co-parent, because this is important stuff about your kids.
Yeah.
As the new partner comes in, the communications should stay just between the parents for quite some time. It's not uncommon, though, when the relationships, when they begin cohabiting, if they're a long-term part of the lives of the family. I've heard of many beautiful examples where both parents and step-parents are all in a group chat together. And so long as the actual parents are the ones that are still making the decisions together, and the step-parents in that space are being facilitative and supportive and not raising conflict issues, then that can be really beautiful. There's several, not several, there'll be loads, but within our own co-parenting community, there's several examples of co-parents who are now able to go on shared holidays with their new partner and their co-parents' new partner. So there's these beautiful mass family holidays happening. Can you imagine that? Like how wonderful for the children to have these stories and memories.
Yeah, for there not to be that tension or that resentment or secrets or whatever, but just to have that open, loving, extended family. I don't know how people do that, honestly, like, because I wasn't modeled to me, and I haven't seen, I've seen some cases, but not of like my close circle, be able to do that. So I find that so admirable, and I'm not sure how people do that.
And I think what you pointed there, Yvonne, is really important in this piece, is that this is not the norm. This is not what is modeled. This is not what we're seeing in movies. It's not what we're seeing in
Mm.
sitcoms. It's not what we're seeing out in community. And in fact, one of the things that frustrates me, my partner gets probably a bit tired of me huffing and puffing when we're watching something on Netflix or Prime, what have you. Is I'm going, oh, again, we've got an estranged parent. Again, we've got an unhealthy dynamic. And then I get really excited when I see healthy co-parenting dynamics happening, and with our co-parenting community, I always share those examples. I go and watch this. This is an example. Look, here it is. And then so often in those narratives, the two people get back together and it's this long romance part. And I'm like, just no, people can separate. They can have their new lives, and they can find a friendship. Now, friendship is
Yeah.
not the right pathway for everybody. So for anyone who's in these early days, what I don't want you to be listening to this and thinking, oh gosh, do I have to be friends with them? Or, is that what we're supposed to do? That we're supposed to go and share family holidays? No, there's not a supposed to. You don't have to. Um, Having a respectful relationship where you can have tension-free conversations, and where the children can have an easy relationship with both of you, and you can turn up to sporting events together or turn up to school events and your children's important milestones together. That is a really, really good solid aim to have, and anything other than that is up to your family and what you're wanting to do. But also, there's two other points in that I'm thinking about. If it's feeling out of reach where you are right now, for every parent that I've spoken to that has ended up in that situation, it felt out of reach for them too. That wasn't something that happened overnight. That was something that took its time, took its space, and took a lot of intentional work from both people to do that. And so even if you do have that as something you want in your end game, taking your time to get there is really, really fine. You have far longer in a child's life as an adult to adult children, where you can enjoy beautiful times together than you do when they're in their child. So take your time and do it well. And then the other part is, yes, because this is counterculture at the moment, like I want it to be the mainstream narrative. I want this to be the experience of what it is to grow up across two homes, but it's not yet. And
Mhm.
so this is where certainly for us, we saw it as not negotiable to have a community of co-parents, because I don't want to be working with people in isolation. I want to bring like-minded people who are seeking to have a collaborative relationship, a counterculture relationship with their co-parent, into community with each other, to be able to support each other, resource each other, remind each other that they're not alone. It can feel so isolating to be stepping into that difficult journey. And so I love that. And in our coaching calls, when we bring them together, it's the most beautiful thing to witness what happens when people hear that my story is not in isolation. Other people are having these same struggles, and other people are having these successes.
Mm.
Don't do this alone. Don't do this alone. Find your village and join our village. Our village is wonderful.
Yeah,
But
can you tell me more about that, about your village, about your community?
yeah, so within co-parenting companion, we have two streams. And so one stream is if we've got two parents who do really just want to work together while they step through their separation, and they're both motivated to work collaboratively, that's great. They can come and do that work with me. It's fantastic. It's an absolute joy. These are the most amazing parents. Not everybody is in that situation. So we have people who want to be collaborative, or they want to be low conflict, or they want to be amicable, but their co-parent, for whatever reason, is not on the page. They might be particularly tricky and difficult, or they just might not be interested in doing anything that looks like co-parenting with their parent. Um, so for those people, we bring them inside our co-parenting intensive reset. That's a 5-week program with online material, loads of videos of me, Yvonne, and then we bring them together for group coaching calls online once a week for 5 weeks. What I love about that is the online content allows people to do things in the comfort of their home when no one else is watching, at times that fit in around their lives. In that space, they get to do reflecting on who they want to be and what they want to stand for, what makes it hard, what gets in the way, the things that are driving them nuts about their kids or their co-parent. And then we get very, very practical in how to predict and change behavior. So the behavior from your kids and your co-parent looks like behavior that you want. And so we do a lot of very practical work in the video content. And then in the live coaching calls, we get to look at for your situation, how does this look? What are you doing? What is working for you? What doesn't work for you? What makes sense? What doesn't? And chance to share wins, and we get wins really, really quickly. Within week one, we get changes starting to happen, and the changes first start in terms of the parent who's attending feeling like they have more freedom in their life, feeling like it's taking up less painful space, feeling like they're able to be more present with their kids and having a better idea about which boundaries they can hold and how to hold them well with their co-parent. And then the next change that we see is we see changes in the relationship with the co-parent over and over again. We see co-parents that were tricky become less tricky, become easier to deal with. We have a membership that people can stay for as long as they like, and that has a massive online portal of resources of, again, more videos of me, tip sheets, articles, pretty much everything that I have ever had to help co-parents step through in the too many long years that I've been working in this space. All of that sits inside there. So we have over 150 videos and articles in there. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're stressed out of your mind about something new that's happened, and I'm most definitely tucked up in bed and hopefully not dreaming about you, that they can jump in and find a video of me talking it through, or articles there. We have monthly group coaching calls, so that then if that's not enough resourcing or they just want some company, they can show up, and again we can talk through what is happening for you, how do we resource you, what is it that you need to set through the moment. And we also have a Facebook group so that they can be in touch with each other in between times as well. And I'm loving where it's at the moment, because I refer to them as our elders in the community. They've been doing this for a little while now, and they've gone on that journey of having a really tricky co-parent, or finding that they're spending loads of time lost in stress and anxiety, through to being able to guide the up and coming generation through, to be able to say, like, well, yeah, actually now these emails only take me 5 minutes, and this co-parent actually is now doing these things with me well, and this is the change that I've had here, and this is the change that I've had there. And it's so useful, because these are the people who are only 6, 12 or 18 months ahead of our new members coming in. So they can see that this isn't an impossible dream, or it's not some sales script, it's not some like, this is very real change that is happening, that is making these lives better, better for the people who are turning up to the calls, and better for their kids. And oh my gosh, that's the stuff that lights me up. Is absolutely unapologetically the whole reason that I do this work is for the children, because children have the right to grow up in a safe environment, to feel healthy and strong, and we need them. We need them to be resilient. We need them to be able to go out and be amazing individuals as they step into their adult selves. And it's what we all want for our kids, right? That's what every parent wants to see for their children.
It takes a village, and it sounds like you're creating an extension of that village in your online community, and like having those coaching calls live. I could see that being so vital in a group setting with these elders. And then also it takes a village with new partners coming in to the family. That's going to be an expansion of that village as well. So these situations, they have the potential to develop into something really beautiful. Like, I can't imagine my life without my stepmother and my stepfather. They were such an asset, or are such an asset to my life. So, and if my parents had some of this guidance, things would have been a lot easier, I think. So I think you're doing, incredibly important work. And Yeah, it's just, yeah, really remarkable. And yeah, thank you on behalf of, I don't know, like, just, yeah, thank you for doing this work.
Well, I love it so much. I think the great thing about building a business is you get to build something that you truly love. And our any of our community calls, they are the highlight of my month. I love meeting these parents and talking with them. They're the most I like that I get to have these people in my life to spend time with, to see what they're doing, and to be part of that journey. It's amazing. And I just want to tell you one a small example for those who are listening, which was of a parent had booked an appointment, a medical appointment for one of the kids. The kid didn't need to attend the appointment. It was for the parent to go. And the parent said to the specialist, just to let you know, my co-parent and their partner are going to come to the meeting. And the specialist said, oh, we don't like to get involved in that kind of stuff. We would really rather you didn't do that. And the parent said, you haven't met us yet. And the three of them did go to that appointment. And I love thinking about all of the times that these parents are out in community, what they are modeling, what they are showing, that ripple effect, that there is an alternative narrative for what two home families can look like and for what step parents can look like as a part of that picture.
Mm. Well, that's, yeah, powerful stuff for sure. Yeah. Tiffany, is there anything that I haven't asked you, anything that you're really wanting to let women in specific know about, yeah, embarking either on the dating or the separation phase? Is there anything that you're
There's one thing left, Yvonne. I'm thinking that I know when we first met, we had a conversation around this, which was one of the things that gets talked about for women dating when they have kids is about whether or not they should tell the people they're dating that they have children.
Mm.
And I've spoken with people who have been quite adamant that they won't do that. That until I know that this person is going to be around for a while, that's when I'll tell them. And I'd really, really want to encourage women to always be open about the fact that you have kids, because if you are seeing somebody who doesn't want to have anything to do with children, or is going to be put off by you being a mum, they are not worth your time. You don't want to take that road with them, because they are not your person. You are fabulous in your motherhood. You are fabulous as a person who is more than just a mother, and you are worth getting to know and appreciate in your whole self right from the get-go. So do not hide your kids. You can be very clear that you don't expect them to suddenly come in and be with your children. In fact, of course you don't, because we've just talked about the fact that you're going to wait quite some time and do this slowly, which I think is probably the other thing. Gosh, I know you said, Yvonne, we could talk for ages, and we could, particularly me, I'm not good at stopping talking, is that when you do introduce a new partner, go at the children's pace. That they will let you know, sometimes behaviorally and sometimes with their words, but to remember that the child still needs time that's just with you and not with your new partner. And sometimes they'll give you mixed messages about how much they want to see the new partner and how much they want time with you. But they still need that time that's just with you. They still need time to adjust to this new person, and they will have lots of complex emotions as that goes. Pace it with them. And if you're not sure, again, what the pacing is, what is right for your kids, come and see somebody like me. Come and see somebody who is an expert in child development and human behavior, who can just help you figure that stuff out. It's much cheaper and much faster to have a prevention conversation than it is
Yeah.
for a care conversation.
Yes. Yeah, so important. You're located in Australia, Sydney, Australia. So for those,
Western Australia,
oh,
Nunga Buja.
you're located in Western Australia. My apologies.
Okay.
Perth, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So for those listening that are not in Australia, what would you recommend is like the best? I know you mentioned there's like the free course on your website with the 6 steps for co-parenting success. But what would you recommend for people that are not in Australia?
Well, so for people who are in Canada, I would say please still come and have a look at us, because our group coaching calls are in all of our programs, in our reset and in our membership, are designed to be around the Australian lunch break, which fits beautifully into the Canadian evening. And so after the kids have gone to bed, you can come and jump in, and we do have members over in Canada. So I would say still come and have a look at us. But if not, if you are looking for someone closer to home, I'll make sure you have for your show notes the website for the International Collaborative. Now I've forgotten the whole acronym, but the Association for Collaborative Practitioners, and there you'll find links to your own country and area where you can look for a collaborative professional. And what you'd be looking for is a collaborative coach. And then when you're looking at collaborative coaches, you're wanting to look for somebody who is a child development specialist or has a background in mental health. You'll also find people who are trained as a collaborative coach who have backgrounds in law. They are great for stepping through a collaborative separation. For the work that we've been talking about, you do want somebody who is experienced in child development. And if you are going down the therapist route instead, look for somebody who has experience with separated families. As common as it is to separate, it is a specialized area, and it's really important to see somebody who is across those different dynamics.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And what's the best way for maybe just mention your website again, and any other way that that listeners can connect with you?
Yeah, so our website is coparentingcompanion.au, but also if you forget that and you put in .com or .com.au, you'll find us anyway. We just thought we'd make it as easy as possible. And I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. It's just at Co-Parenting Companion. Or if you Google my name, it's Tiffany Rochester, you'll find me through all of those. I try and be as easy to find as possible, because oh goodness me, we all have short memories, and it's only tiny pieces of information we can retain.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll be sure to list all those links in the show notes. Yeah, to make it really easy for listeners to find you. Final question before we wrap up. What song are you currently dancing to?
Do you know, it's interesting because I am far more of a karaoke addict than a dancer.
Oh my gosh.
So I can tell you what my favorite song to sing to is.
And
it's Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know.
Oh, nice, risque.
It's a whole heap of fun. A whole heap of fun. Lovely, lovely.
You know, I would not have imagined you saying that. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. I could really see like letting loose to that song.
Absolutely. I think music for dancing or for singing, music is such a great transformer of mood and experience. It is definitely my favorite self-care activity is a karaoke night. Yep.
I love that so much. Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on and for chatting with me. This was such a rich conversation, so powerful, and I learned so much, you know, for my future. Well, hopefully not. But yeah, super valuable information, and thank you so much for sharing that with the audience and with me today.
Yvonne, thank you so much. I think that the work that you do is really important, and yeah, I think it's really gorgeous to be helping women really step confidently into that dating space. And if this conversation helps them to be able to do that while they have kids, then that will delight me. And I hope that when your friends hear this episode, that they are really, really pleased with you and take you out for a celebratory drink or a cake.
Yeah. I'll take the cake, I think. But yeah, thank you so much, Tiffany. I really appreciate you. Thank